The first contact, hook, and suspense. In the far reaches of the galaxy, the Empire was known for its power and control. It had spread its influence over countless star systems, and its warships patrolled every corner of the universe. The Empire was feared by all, its technology unrivaled, and its military strength was unmatched. The aliens who ruled the Empire believed that no one could ever challenge them. Their ships were invincible, their weapons powerful beyond imagination, and their reach stretched across the stars. But on the outer rim of the Empire's territory, something strange was happening. The calm of space was disturbed by an unusual signal, one that didn't match anything the Empire had ever seen. It wasn't a distress call from one of their own fleets, nor was it a message from any of the many alien species they controlled. This signal was different. It was bold. It was human. The aliens immediately began to investigate. Their sensors scanned the source of the signal, trying to make sense of this strange transmission. They were puzzled. The technology behind it seemed primitive compared to their own, yet there was something undeniable about the urgency in the message. The transmission wasn't just a simple communication. It felt like a warning. Deep within the command center of the Empire's capital, high-ranking officials gathered to discuss the strange occurrence. At first, no one knew what to make of the message. The idea of humans being out there in space was impossible. After all, humanity was supposed to be a fledgling species, still crawling through their own galaxy, far from any advanced spacefaring civilization. Humans. The commander questioned aloud, disbelief in his voice. Are you certain? How can they be so far from their homeworld? The technician at the console, struggling to comprehend the signal, replied, It's them, sir. We've never encountered anything like it before. Their technology. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. And yet this message is clearly human. The room fell silent, the weight of the discovery heavy in the air. The thought of humans existing beyond their planet was unsettling. No one in the Empire had ever imagined that a species as young and unrefined as humans would ever become a threat. The message that had been received was simple, but it carried a chilling tone. It wasn't asking for help, nor was it a request for peace. Instead, it was a declaration. The words were clear. We are humans. We are coming. And just like that, the Empire's military was put on high alert. No one knew what to expect. How could such a primitive species have a warship capable of reaching the edges of the Empire's space? The thought was almost laughable. But the aliens weren't laughing. The message had sparked something in them. A sense of fear they hadn't felt in centuries. A group of military leaders gathered around a massive table in a war room. They were used to dealing with threats, but this was different. This wasn't an invasion they had prepared for. This wasn't an enemy they had studied or researched. It was a mystery. We must act quickly, said one of the generals, his voice steady but filled with concern. If these humans have managed to travel this far, we can't underestimate them. Another officer chimed in. But how do we deal with them? We know nothing about them, their weapons, or their strength. They may be weak, but they could also be dangerous in ways we can't predict. The Empire's leaders began to argue. Some wanted to launch a full-scale attack, others suggested waiting to learn more. But the one thing they all agreed on was that this new unknown force could be a serious threat. Their best option, they decided, was to send a reconnaissance fleet to intercept the human warship before it could reach any deeper into their territory. As the fleet moved to engage, the tension grew. The unknown ship, the human's warship, was slowly making its way closer, and the Empire's forces were unsure of what would happen next. Every sensor scan, every transmission, only brought more questions. How could such a small, seemingly insignificant species pose such a challenge? Then, without warning, the human warship fired its first shot. The blast was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. It wasn't just a burst of energy. It was precision. It was strength. It was an attack designed not just to damage, but to utterly overwhelm. The first alien ship in range was obliterated in seconds, its massive hull torn apart by the human weaponry. The Empire's fleet hesitated. The sudden shock of the attack left them frozen, unsure of what to do. This was not how they had expected things to go. The humans were supposed to be weak, disorganized. Yet they had just destroyed one of the Empire's most powerful ships with a single strike. The commanders quickly regrouped, realizing that they were facing an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. They could no longer afford to underestimate these humans. If they were going to survive, they would have to fight with everything they had. The humans had just sent their first message. "We are not here to beg for peace. We are here to claim what is ours." In the command center, the leader of the Empire's military force made a decision. It was time to prepare for war. A war against humans, a species that, until now, had been nothing more than a curiosity in the galaxy's history. But now, they were a threat, and the aliens didn't know if they were ready for what was coming next. The Empire had just been forced into the biggest battle of its history. The question now was, could they survive the human onslaught? The alien Empire responds. As the remnants of the alien fleet retreated, their minds raced with one question. How could such a primitive species be so powerful? The humans had destroyed one of their finest ships with a single shot. The Empire, once thought invincible, was now facing an unknown enemy who seemed to possess the strength and resilience to tear through their might. Back on the Empire's capital planet, the high-ranking officials held an emergency council. The room was filled with murmurs of disbelief and uncertainty. The alien leaders had never encountered anything like this. Their once feared fleets had been struck down by the humans' warship. The power of their technology and their tactics left the Empire's most brilliant minds scrambling for answers. How did they do it? A general demanded, slamming his fist onto the table. "We've studied every possible enemy, and no one has ever been able to breach our defenses with such ease. We're dealing with something unexpected," replied a high-ranking scientist, still in shock from the human ship's display of power. "Their technology. It's unlike anything we've seen. They've mastered energy weapons we thought were centuries away from being possible." The commander in charge of the alien fleet spoke up. "I recommend we send another fleet, stronger this time. We can't let them advance any further into our territory. If we allow them to push through, it could mean the end of our empire." There was silence in the room. The idea of sending more ships seemed reasonable, but fear lingered in the air. The last battle had shown them that the human warship was not just strong. It was intelligent, strategic, and capable of adapting in ways that defied expectations. The humans weren't acting like any species the Empire had ever encountered. "We need more information," said one of the Empire's advisors. "We can't just keep throwing ships at them. We need to know everything about their tactics, their weaknesses. Only then can we make a move." The decision was made. The Empire's leaders ordered a covert mission to send a small scout fleet to gather intelligence on the human warship. Their goal was to follow the ship, watch it from a distance, and learn its patterns. No engagement was to take place unless absolutely necessary. As the scout fleet approached, the human ship continued its slow advance, heading deeper into the alien territory. The Empire's forces were careful not to make their presence known. The scouts watched from afar, using their advanced cloaking technology to avoid detection. But what they saw made their hearts race. The human ship didn't appear to be in a rush. It moved deliberately, as though the crew knew they were being watched. It didn't seem worried or anxious. It simply followed its course, as if the Empire's forces didn't even matter. The more the scouts observed, the more they began to realize something chilling. The humans weren't here by accident. They weren't afraid. They were here to stay. The alien commanders met again to discuss their findings. The scouts had reported that the human warship was not like any other ship they had encountered. It wasn't just a military vessel, it was a fortress. Every scan confirmed that the ship was built to withstand damage and deal massive destruction. The humans didn't just rely on brute force. Their tactics were designed for total control. and they knew exactly how to use their ship's strengths against the Empire. "Prepare our best fleet," ordered the Supreme Commander. "We can't afford to wait any longer. The humans have already shown us what they're capable of. Now it's time to show them what we can do." The Empire's fleet assembled, each ship equipped with the most advanced weapons and shields they had. But even as they prepared for battle, there was an unease among the commanders. They had no idea what to expect from the humans. Would they fight with reckless abandon, or did they have something more dangerous up their sleeve? No one knew. The alien fleet set course for the human warship, determined to crush the invaders. But as they neared, they noticed something strange. The human ship had stopped. It wasn't moving forward anymore. Instead, it hovered, almost as if it was waiting. It seemed to be anticipating their next move. "We'll engage them at once," the fleet commander ordered. The aliens began their approach, launching a barrage of energy blasts at the human ship. But before the blasts could reach their target, the human warship unleashed a wave of energy that sent the alien projectiles scattering in all directions. The alien fleet was stunned. The human warship had countered their attack with such speed and precision that the aliens didn't know how to respond. This wasn't just a battle of firepower. It was a battle of minds. And the humans were proving they were not to be underestimated. As the alien fleet regrouped, the human ship's weapons activated again. This time, it wasn't just a defensive move, it was an offensive one. The human ship unleashed a series of strikes that shattered the alien fleet's formations. Each attack was calculated, hitting the weakest points of the alien ships and crippling them with surgical precision. The aliens were left scrambling. Their once feared fleet was being torn apart, and they had no idea how to stop it. In the midst of the chaos, the Supreme Commander's voice came over the comms. "Retreat," he ordered. "We can't win this. Not like this." The remaining alien ships fled, leaving the human warship untouched. As the human ship watched them retreat, it sent a final message to the fleeing fleet. "This is only the beginning. Your empire will fall." The aliens had been forced to retreat, and for the first time in centuries, they were faced with the unsettling truth. They were not the only power in the galaxy anymore. The humans had arrived, and they were not going away. The human warship's power. The alien fleet was in disarray. Their ships, once thought to be unstoppable, had been torn apart by the human warship's overwhelming power. In the aftermath of their retreat, the Empire's leaders gathered once again, their faces grim. They had underestimated the humans, and now they were paying the price. This cannot be real," muttered one of the generals, his voice filled with disbelief. "How can a single ship do this to us? We are the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. We control thousands of worlds. And now we've been beaten by humans." The Empire's Supreme Commander stood silent for a moment, his mind racing. He had seen many battles in his long career, but nothing like this. Nothing that could explain what had just happened. The human warship was unlike any weapon they had ever encountered. It had no visible weakness, no flaws in its defense. Every attempt to strike it had failed. Was it just the ship's power? Another officer asked, the question hanging in the air. Or is there something else? Something we don't understand. "We've faced enemies with powerful ships before, but none like this," replied the Supreme Commander. "The human warship is a machine of destruction. Its weapons, its speed, everything about it is beyond what we expected. We need to figure out how it works. We need to understand it." The Empire's Scientific Council was immediately called into session. They had to examine every piece of data they had on the human ship, their scans, the battle footage, the damage reports. But even with their best minds working together, they found themselves at a loss. The humans had somehow harnessed a form of energy that the Empire had never seen before, energy that could cut through the toughest shields and destroy entire fleets in moments. "Look at this," said one of the lead scientists, pointing to a schematic of the human ship. "Their energy core. It's unlike anything we've ever encountered. It seems to draw from some sort of advanced fusion system, but the output is far greater than anything we've ever been able to produce. The other scientists stared at the data, but there was no clear answer. The energy they were reading on their sensors didn't make sense. It was as if the human warship had tapped into some kind of limitless power source, something that the alien empire's most advanced research had never even hinted at. That's not all, another scientist added. Their weapons. We thought we had the most advanced technology in the galaxy, but these humans, their weapons are more efficient, more destructive than anything we've ever developed. The Empire's leaders were growing more and more desperate. The human warship had proven its superiority not just in power, but in strategy. It seemed to anticipate every move they made, countering each attack with ease. The more they tried to analyze the ship, the more it slipped through their grasp. The humans had mastered something that the Empire could not comprehend. But there was one thing the aliens knew for sure. If they didn't stop the human warship soon, it would be too late. The humans were relentless, and if they were allowed to continue their advance, the Empire could face total annihilation. "We can't sit idly by while they destroy our fleets one by one," said the Supreme Commander, determination in his voice. "We need to strike back. We must build a fleet powerful enough to take them down. We'll need to gather our best ships, our best weapons, and go after them." The commanders nodded in agreement. The Empire had vast resources, and they could rebuild their fleet quickly. But there was still one question that loomed over them. Could they even defeat the human warship? Back at the heart of the human ship, the crew of the warship watched the retreating alien fleet. They had won the first battle, but the war was far from over. The human crew knew that their fight had only just begun. Every member of the crew had been trained for this moment, each one of them ready to defend humanity's place in the galaxy. Commander Jacob Rhodes, the captain of the human warship, stood at the helm, staring at the view screen as the last of the alien ships disappeared into the distance. His face was grim, his eyes focused on the battle ahead. "This is just the beginning," Commander Rhodes said quietly, almost to himself. "We've made a statement today, but the real war is coming. The aliens will retaliate. They will come back stronger, more determined. We need to be ready." His second-in-command, Lieutenant Sarah Owens, stepped forward. "We've trained for this, Commander. We've faced worse odds before. We'll be ready." Rhodes nodded. "I hope you're right, but we can't afford to make any mistakes. If we falter, if we lose our focus, we'll pay the price." The human warship turned slowly, its massive engines firing to take it deeper into alien space. It was a message, a declaration that humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. Meanwhile, the alien empire was already making plans for its next move. They knew that their failure had been a blow to their reputation, but they also knew that they couldn't afford to let the humans get the upper hand. If they didn't find a way to defeat the human warship, their empire could be reduced to nothing. The aliens now realized something they hadn't before. Humanity wasn't just another species to be conquered. The humans were a force to be reckoned with, a force that would change the course of the galaxy forever. As both sides prepared for what would be the greatest conflict the galaxy had ever seen, one thing was certain: the battle for supremacy had only just begun. The human strategy. In the depths of the human warship, the crew was already preparing for what was to come. The victory over the alien fleet was just the beginning, but it had proven something crucial. Humanity was capable of surviving even the most daunting challenges. However, Commander Jacob Rhodes knew that the alien empire would not give up easily. They would retaliate, and they would come back stronger. Rhodes paced back and forth in the command center, his eyes fixed on the holographic map of the galaxy. The aliens were regrouping, calling upon their vast resources to rebuild their fleet. The next battle would be even more dangerous, and he knew it was only a matter of time before the full might of the alien empire would be brought to bear. "Lieutenant Owens," Commander Rhodes said, turning toward his second-in-command. "We've proven we can take on their fleets, but this time, we can't afford to be caught off guard. We need a strategy." Lieutenant Owens nodded, her face determined. "We can't just rely on brute force alone, Commander. The aliens are learning from their mistakes. They're going to come at us with everything they have." Rhodes leaned over the map, his fingers tracing the lines of alien-controlled space. "We know they're assembling their fleets along these borders," he said. "If we strike quickly, we might be able to disrupt their plans before they're fully prepared." He paused, letting the idea sink in. A rapid strike could force the alien empire to abandon its current objectives, throwing them into disarray. It would be a risky move, but it was their best chance. "We'll hit their supply lines," Rhodes continued, his voice growing more confident. "If we target their fuel depots and shipyards, we can cripple their ability to rebuild their fleets. Their ships need constant resupply to stay operational, and without that, they'll be stuck. The element of surprise is on our side. We need to strike hard and fast before they can mount a defense." Lieutenant Owens looked thoughtful. "It's a good plan, but we'll need intelligence on their supply routes. We can't afford to make any mistakes. If we attack the wrong targets, we could lose valuable resources and put ourselves in a vulnerable position." Rhodes nodded. "I'll send out reconnaissance teams to gather more intel. We need to know where they're weakest, where they're storing their most critical supplies. Once we have that information, we'll strike decisively." The crew sprang into action, preparing for their next mission. The human warship was a formidable force, but Commander Rhodes knew that to win this war, they needed more than just strength. They needed cunning. They needed to outsmart the alien empire at every turn. As the reconnaissance teams began their work, the crew analyzed every piece of data they gathered from the alien ships they had destroyed. Each battle provided more information, revealing the weaknesses in the alien empire's strategies. The humans had learned to adapt quickly, using their limited resources efficiently and outthinking their more powerful foes. Meanwhile, back on the alien side, the Empire was preparing its own strategy for retaliation. The loss of a fleet to a single human warship had shaken their confidence, but they refused to let it define their empire. The Supreme Commander, still reeling from the humiliation, had ordered a full mobilization of their forces. "We cannot let these humans believe they can simply walk through our space unchallenged," the Supreme Commander said, his tone dark with anger. "They have proven themselves capable, but they will not defeat us. We will crush them before they have a chance to gain any more ground." The alien forces had begun assembling their fleets along the borders, preparing to strike at the human warship. They had learned much from the previous battle, and knew that they couldn't make the same mistakes again. They would need to focus on overwhelming the humans, using superior numbers and more coordinated tactics. However, despite their resources and might, they knew that the humans had one thing they couldn't replicate: their determination. As the days passed, both sides continued to prepare for the inevitable confrontation. The aliens focused on building a massive fleet, one that would give them the power to finally crush the human warship. But even as they constructed their armada, doubts lingered in their minds. The humans had already proven they were not like any other species they had encountered. Their warship had withstood everything the Empire had thrown at it, and still it stood unbroken. Commander Rhodes, on the other hand, was not sitting idly by. He knew that time was against them, and the longer they stayed in the alien-controlled territory, the greater the chance they would be found. He focused on gathering the final pieces of the puzzle, learning everything they could about the aliens' movements. "We've got what we need," Lieutenant Owens said, her voice filled with urgency. "We've located their primary shipyards and supply depots. They're vulnerable. If we strike now, we can cripple their ability to rebuild. It's our best chance." Commander Rhodes's eyes gleamed with determination. "Prepare the warship. We're going in." The crew moved swiftly, each person knowing their role in the upcoming mission. The human warship would move fast, strike hard, and leave no trace behind. They would disrupt the alien empire's entire supply chain and leave them scrambling for resources. The surprise attack would give the humans the upper hand, at least for now. As the warship moved toward the alien supply lines, the tension was palpable. The crew knew they had to succeed. Failure would mean their destruction. The countdown to the mission was underway, and every second brought them closer to the unknown. Humanity had proven its resilience in the past, and now, with the alien empire's forces closing in, it was time to prove it once again. The battle for the galaxy was far from over, and the next move would decide everything. "Engage," Commander Rhodes ordered, his voice steady, as the crew braced for the fight ahead. The future of the galaxy rested on the next few moments. A turning point. The human warship's engines roared as it surged through the darkness of space, heading toward the heart of the alien empire's territory. The mission was clear: strike at the supply lines, cripple their ability to rebuild, and disrupt their strategy before the aliens could regroup. There was no turning back now. Commander Jacob Rhodes stood at the helm, his expression focused. The tension on the bridge was palpable. Every crew member knew the stakes. Failure meant destruction, and the fate of humanity would hang in the balance. But if they succeeded, they would strike a blow that the alien empire would feel for years. "We're approaching the first target," Lieutenant Owens reported from the tactical station, her voice sharp and clear. "The first supply depot is ahead. We're on schedule." Rhodes nodded, his mind racing through the plan once more. The human warship was moving with incredible speed, using its advanced stealth technology to avoid detection. The alien empire's vast space was littered with defensive installations and patrols, but the humans had learned to navigate around them. They were using the element of surprise, something the aliens had failed to anticipate. The warship's weapons were primed, and the crew stood ready for the attack. The first target was a massive supply depot, a key location for the Empire's fleet-building operations. It was located deep in alien-controlled space, hidden in the shadow of a gas giant. But it wasn't hidden enough. The human warship had already locked onto it. Rhodes' voice was steady as he gave the command. "Fire." A barrage of energy blasts shot from the human warship, slamming into the depot. The shockwave of the explosion sent ripples through space, the distant star flickering with the blast. The depot's defenses were obliterated in an instant, and the complex erupted in a chain of violent explosions. The depot, once a crucial piece of the Empire's supply network, was now reduced to debris. The crew watched the destruction unfold on the view screen, the sense of triumph hard to ignore. But there was no time to celebrate. The battle had only just begun. "First target destroyed," Lieutenant Owens confirmed. "Moving to the next location. We have to keep the pressure on." The warship quickly changed course, moving toward its next target. A fleet of alien transports carrying essential resources to the Empire's front lines. These ships were vulnerable, slow-moving, and crucial to the alien war effort. If the humans could destroy them, it would set the Empire back by weeks, perhaps even months. The alien Empire's response came faster than they had anticipated. A fleet of alien destroyers, hidden in the shadows of a nearby asteroid field, launched from their concealed positions. They were on a direct intercept course with the human warship. "They've found us," Lieutenant Owens shouted, her fingers flying over the controls. "We're not in stealth range anymore. They're coming straight for us." Rhodes' expression hardened. "Brace for impact. Get us into position. We're not running. We're going to finish what we started." The human warship shifted position, dodging the incoming fire from the alien destroyers. The alien ships, massive and heavily armed, closed in, their weapons locked onto the human warship's hull. Energy blasts lanced through space, missing by mere inches as the human warship's advanced maneuvering systems evaded the attacks. The tension on the bridge was unbearable. The alien fleet was much larger, and the odds were stacked against them. But the human warship was not going to back down. The crew had trained for moments like this. They were ready. Rhodes' voice cut through the chaos. "Fire everything we've got. Don't hold back." The human warship's weapons erupted in response, a rapid series of strikes that tore through the alien fleet. One by one, the alien destroyers were hit, their shields crumbling under the onslaught of energy blasts. The aliens fought back with everything they had, but the human warship was too fast, too aggressive. The humans had mastered their tactics, using their speed and firepower to hit their enemies where it hurt the most. In the span of just minutes, the human warship had disabled half of the alien destroyers, leaving the rest in disarray. The remaining alien ships, battered and wounded, began to retreat. "We did it," Lieutenant Owens exclaimed, a hint of relief in her voice. But Rhodes didn't allow himself to relax. "Don't celebrate yet," he replied. "We're not done. Keep moving." The human warship quickly moved to its next target, a massive shipyard hidden in an asteroid belt. This was the true prize, the heart of the alien empire's fleet production. Without these shipyards, the aliens would be unable to replace their losses, and their fleet would be rendered useless. The destruction of this facility would cripple their war effort, potentially turning the tide of the entire conflict. As they approached, the human warship activated its advanced sensors, scanning the area for any signs of alien defenses. The shipyards were protected by layers of shields and defense turrets, but they weren't invincible. "Lock onto their main reactor," Rhodes ordered. "We need to hit them where it hurts." The warship fired a concentrated energy beam directly at the heart of the shipyard. The blast was pinpoint accurate, cutting through the shields and striking the reactor with devastating force. The explosion was enormous, sending shockwaves through the asteroid field and causing the shipyard to collapse in on itself. The facility that had once been the lifeblood of the alien empire's fleet-building efforts was now nothing but floating debris. The human warship quickly withdrew, knowing that their presence would soon be detected. They had done what they came to do. The alien empire would feel the consequences of this attack for years to come. But even as they moved to exit the alien-controlled space, Commander Rhodes couldn't shake the feeling that this was just a temporary victory. The alien empire would retaliate. They had to. And when they did, the humans would need to be ready. "We've done our part," Rhodes said, his voice steady. "But the real fight is still ahead." The human warship, now deep in the heart of enemy space, continued its journey, leaving behind a trail of destruction. But the conflict was far from over. The battle for the galaxy had reached a turning point, and neither side would stop until the other was defeated. As the crew of the warship prepared for the next phase of the mission, one thing was clear: humanity's resilience was their greatest weapon, and the galaxy had yet to see the full extent of what they were capable of. The last stand. The human warship had successfully crippled the alien empire's key supply lines and shipyards. Yet, despite the damage they had inflicted, Commander Jacob Rhodes knew that their victory would only be temporary. The alien empire was vast, and their retaliatory response would be swift and brutal. The full force of their military might was coming, and the humans would have to face it head-on. As the warship moved further into alien-controlled space, the crew continued to monitor their surroundings. The tension on board was palpable. Everyone knew that the battle they had just won was only a small piece of the larger conflict. The true test of their strength would come in the form of the aliens' final counterattack. The full alien fleet was now assembling, and the humans had no illusions about the scale of what was to come. "We're deep in enemy territory now," Lieutenant Owens reported, her voice calm, but with a hint of concern. "They're coming for us. They've regrouped, and we've taken out their primary resources. We can expect them to come at us with everything they've got." Commander Rhodes nodded solemnly. "They'll want revenge, and they won't hold back. We need to be ready for a fight unlike anything we've ever faced." As they continued their journey, the human warship encountered increasingly hostile alien forces. Patrols and scouting ships were dispatched to locate them, but the warship's stealth capabilities allowed them to avoid detection, at least for the time being. Every time they destroyed an enemy vessel, the stakes grew higher. The alien empire would not let these attacks go unanswered. Then, a chilling message came through the warship's comm system. It was from the alien empire's supreme commander. "This is your final warning, humans. Leave our territory now or face complete annihilation. You are no match for the full might of our fleet. Surrender, and we may spare your lives." The message was blunt, but it made one thing clear. The aliens were done playing games. They were ready to end this conflict once and for all. "We have no choice but to fight," Rhodes muttered under his breath. He turned to his crew, his expression resolute. "Prepare for the final battle. Whatever happens, we fight until the end." The tension on the warship reached its peak as the crew made their final preparations. They knew that the alien fleet they were about to face would be unlike anything they had encountered before. The aliens had learned from their mistakes, and they would come armed with superior numbers and advanced tactics. But the humans weren't backing down. Minutes later, the view screen flickered, revealing a massive alien fleet emerging from the shadows of a nearby star system. The ships were vast, some of the largest warships the humans had ever seen, bristling with weapons. The fleet was unlike anything they had fought before. This was the last stand of the alien empire. The humans were surrounded. "We're outnumbered," Lieutenant Owens said, her voice tight with apprehension. "There's no way we can fight them all at once." "We don't need to fight them all at once," Commander Rhodes replied, a fire burning in his eyes. "We just need to take out their command ship. If we do that, the rest of their fleet will fall apart." The crew braced for impact as the first wave of alien ships closed in. The human warship launched its offensive, targeting the alien ships with everything it had. Energy blasts, missiles, and rapid-fire lasers shot across the void, lighting up the darkness of space. The human warship darted and weaved through enemy fire, dodging and returning fire with deadly accuracy. The alien ships fired back, their weapons crackling with destructive power. The human warship took hits, the shields flickering under the assault. The battle was fierce, and it quickly became clear that the humans' greatest advantage was their ability to think and adapt on the fly. Every maneuver was a calculated risk, and every decision could mean the difference between life and death. As the battle raged on, Rhodes focused all his attention on the alien command ship, the largest vessel in the fleet. If they could disable it, the remaining alien ships would lose their coordination, and the battle would turn in their favor. He knew it was a long shot, but it was their best hope. "Target the command ship," Rhodes shouted. "All weapons, focus on the bridge. If we take that down, we win this fight." The human warship's cannons fired in unison, sending a barrage of energy blasts toward the alien command ship. The alien ship retaliated with a powerful energy beam, narrowly missing the human warship as it danced out of the way. The fight was becoming increasingly intense, with both sides locked in a deadly game of cat and mouse. Then, just as it seemed that the alien command ship was about to overwhelm them, the human warship found an opening. The shields on the command ship faltered for just a moment, and in that split second, the humans fired everything they had. The blast hit its mark. The alien command ship shuddered violently, its massive hull cracking under the force of the impact. Its weapons sputtered, and its engines flared out, leaving it drifting helplessly in space. The alien fleet, now without its leader, began to falter. The coordination they once had quickly dissolved as the ships lost contact with their command vessel. The humans pressed their advantage, taking down alien ship after alien ship with calculated precision. Despite the overwhelming odds, the human warship continued its relentless assault. One by one, the alien ships fell, their once powerful fleet crumbling under the weight of the human warship's firepower and strategic genius. The battle seemed to last forever, but slowly, the tide turned. The alien forces, leaderless and disorganized, began to retreat. The humans, battered and bruised, had managed to hold their ground. "We've done it," Lieutenant Owens whispered, her voice filled with awe. "We actually did it." Commander Rhodes stood, his gaze fixed on the remaining alien ships fleeing into the void. We may have won this battle, but the war isn't over yet. This is just the beginning. The human warship, battered but undefeated, watched as the last of the alien fleet retreated into the darkness. They had survived the greatest battle of their lives. But the war for the galaxy was far from finished. One thing was certain. The humans had proven they could stand against the might of the alien empire, and they would not back down. The fight for survival was just beginning, and humanity was ready to face whatever came next. The unexpected victory. The warship hovered in the aftermath of the battle, its engines still humming as it floated in the silent, starlit void. Commander Jacob Rhodes stood at the bridge, watching as the last remnants of the alien fleet retreated into the blackness of space. Their once mighty armada had been shattered. The alien empire, a force feared throughout the galaxy, was now reeling, disorganized, and defeated. The humans had done the unthinkable. For weeks, the crew had fought fiercely, giving everything they had to disrupt the alien forces. But no one could have predicted the scale of the victory they had achieved. Against all odds, they had torn through the Empire's defenses, crippled their fleets, and taken down their command ship. Now the alien forces were on the run. Rhodes felt a mix of exhaustion and triumph. The war was far from over, but they had made their mark. Humanity had proven it was not a species to be ignored or dismissed. They were a force of resilience, and no one, not even the mightiest empire in the galaxy, could erase that. "We did it," Lieutenant Owen said, her voice a little more hushed than usual. "We actually did it." Rhodes nodded, his gaze fixed on the view screen. "Yes, but this isn't over. They'll regroup, rebuild, and come after us again. The question is, what do we do now?" "We fight on," Owens replied firmly. "We've shown them that we can win, even when the odds are stacked against us." Rhodes turned to face his crew, his voice resolute. "We've earned this victory, but we can't let our guard down. The aliens will lick their wounds, and they'll come back stronger. We need to prepare for that. We'll need to stay ahead of them, strategize, hit their weak points, and keep moving forward. The war may continue for some time, but humanity will never give up." The crew knew their mission was far from finished. This victory, though massive, was just one chapter in the long struggle to secure humanity's place in the galaxy. The alien empire, wounded and shaken, would not stop until they wiped out the threat the humans posed. But the humans, now more determined than ever, were ready to continue the fight. "We're going to need more allies," said Commander Rhodes, thinking ahead. "Our success has drawn their attention, and we may not be able to stand alone for much longer. We'll need to reach out to other species who have suffered under the alien empire's control." With their victory, the humans had sent a message to the rest of the galaxy. Humanity was here, and they were a force to be reckoned with. The battle had been brutal, but it had also shown that even the smallest, youngest species in the galaxy could challenge the might of the most advanced civilizations. The alien empire, once so confident in its superiority, now had a new adversary to fear. The crew set their course for the next phase of the mission. Rhodes knew it would take time to rebuild, to expand their resources, and to rally other species to their cause. But they had proven one irrefutable fact. Humanity could survive, fight back, and win, even against the most overwhelming odds. As the warship powered through the dark, the crew shared a silent understanding. This victory was not just for them. It was for every person back on Earth, every human who had ever fought to survive, to make a stand against tyranny. They had done the impossible, and in doing so, they had secured humanity's place in the stars. But even as they celebrated their victory, the galaxy remained uncertain. The alien empire would return, and new challenges would emerge. But humanity, having tasted the power of defiance, would never back down. In the distance, the stars burned bright. The future was uncertain, but one thing was certain: humanity's story had only just begun. The war for the galaxy wasn't over, But with their resilience and determination, the humans knew they would continue to fight until they had secured peace for themselves and for everyone who had ever been oppressed by the alien empire. And as the human warship sailed deeper into space, the final message echoed across the cosmos. We are humans. We fight for survival, and we will not be defeated. The battle was far from over, but humanity had already shown the galaxy that it was a force that could not be ignored. The unexpected victory was only the beginning of a new chapter in the saga of human resilience. The fight for the galaxy had begun, and humanity was ready to lead the charge.